Going on, everyone? Today I'm sharing just kind of a personal check-in on my training progress. Just kind of going over a couple little metrics from a recent run and a run that I did a couple weeks ago, and just kind of where I see myself currently and where I'm headed as I guess you could consider, me as like a strength and endurance athlete, which I would use that term loosely. Usually when I think of an athlete, I think of somebody competing. I'm not really competing in anything or for any purpose other than for myself. Just to go over some kind of statistics about me, like my physical statistics is I'm 5'9", 230 pounds. So I'm definitely not your typical like runner build. I'm not tall, I'm not lanky. I'm not very lean, but I do carry, a decent amount of muscle. I am strong. But more so with the fact that I think I have a good base to build a pretty strong hybrid, physical program for myself and the ability to be just kind of a well-rounded athlete, per se. A little bit more about me. I played sports in high school. I've always been a very active person. I was a very active kid, always outside riding my bike. I'm a millennial, so at least for me, a decent part of my childhood was before internet, social media was a big thing. I'm almost 35 years old, so you can do with that as you wish. Another thing is I was also in the 82nd Airborne. So anybody who's ever served in an airborne unit, the 82nd, you know that at least being able to run is a big deal there. I don't pride myself on being a good runner prior to going into the military. I was an awful runner. I was, short distance kind of speed, for football. I had to really work on being what I would have considered a really good runner, because we ran a lot. We were always running. That seems like that's what PT was: get up, run. Then when we would do our PT tests and things like that, and I was running pretty much at the top of my age, time to finish. That 15:30 to 15:40 mark for a while. And I just knew that that's not where I wanted to be. So, I did put in a lot of effort, and eventually I got my run times down into the 14. And the best run I ever did was a 13:23 2 mile, which, I thought I was going to die after that. But anyways, so today's Monday, so yesterday, Sunday, I went and did a 3 mile run. That 3 mile run really wasn't supposed to be a 3 mile run. It was supposed to be more focused on interval training. But I felt that, I kind of wanted to get in a short run in there and then maybe do my intervals at the end, which is exactly what I did. So just to break that down, the total time, this is my elapsed time, everything. So no, cutting any corners here. My total time running was 35 minutes and 21 seconds. That was an average of 11:47 mile pace. So I'm talking pretty slow. Now, the first 2 miles, that's what I ran consistently. My last mile is where I put in my intervals. So I would walk the turns and then I would sprint the straights. So I did that, multiple times for 1 mile to end the total 3 mile block of work that I did. So to kind of put that into perspective, I tracked all of that on my Garmin watch here. And I don't know how accurate these statistics are, but I would imagine that they're pretty close to being fairly accurate. So my max sprint power, so the power that I put in was 1,303 watts. According to some studies that I did, just kind of like looking things up, that's pretty decent. My average power for the entire duration of the work, though, was around 342 watts. Top speed was 13 miles per hour, which is not the fastest that I can run. But since I did this at the end of my kind of my actual run. My legs were a little tired. I don't run often, so they felt a little heavy. I was curious what that would translate to a 40-yard dash. So based off of just kind of throwing this in Chat GPT and saying, hey, this is my stats, this is how heavy I am, here's my run times. If you could break this down, what would my 40-yard dash be? And it said it'd probably be about 6.3 seconds, which, isn't great, isn't terrible, I guess. But when you compare that to, collegiate athletes and pro athletes running 40-yard dashes, they're in the fours. So we are not there. To kind of take away from that, I'm not elite. I do think that, I'm strong. I've got a good aerobic base. If I were to drop anywhere from 15 to, 20 pounds, which, isn't that hard to do if I just put in a little bit more effort. I think that's always, most people's hardest part of their training is just the nutrition side. My goal, I would say like my ultimate goal for what I'm trying to achieve at this point is to kind of increase my speed and endurance. I want to be able to get, I want to be able to utilize the power that I actually have in my legs. Like I have pretty strong legs, but I need to work better on, actually transferring that power to my ground strikes and everything like that so I can really propel myself. I think if I can, put a little bit more effort into that, I can drop my overall 2 miles. I could probably get it back down into the 14s. If I'm feeling really good, I'd like to hit a 5K in well under 30 minutes, which I'm pretty sure I could do, and I could probably do that now. I'd just be a little gassed if I did. Now, if I'm going to stack myself up against, like, let's just say collegiate athletes, they're hitting probably 20 plus miles per hour in their sprints. The fastest that I have recorded time, now this is recorded time based off of using my Garmin. Like I said, not 100% accurate, but pretty close. Had me at just a little over 18 miles per hour. Now, I weigh 230 pounds now. When I did that, I was 215 pounds. So a pretty decent, we're talking 15 pounds lighter than I am, today. So it does really make a difference. The little, the lighter you are, you're quicker on your feet. So, if I'm hitting 18 miles per hour, especially at my height, and my overall fitness, I would say that that's pretty good. Endurance runners, so people that, obviously train for long distance running, they're hitting anywhere from 7 to 9 minute mile paces, like consistent. There's some who are, they're in the sixes. They're just freaking units. I don't think that I will be hitting 7-minute to 9-minute mile paces for super long periods. I ran a 6 mile the 1st of June, hadn't ran in, I couldn't tell you how long, just decided to bust out a 6 mile run. And I want to say I had 11:09 minute mile pace for that whole time. And it was pretty brutal for me because I hadn't done that in so long. But anyways, I would say that at least for where I'm at today, based off of just kind of some metrics that I'm pulling off of my watch, I would say I'm doing pretty good. I'm not at any elite level. I probably won't be breaking any records. But, based on my strength, my explosive power, and just kind of now my endurance that I'm building, I think that I could probably have the conversation that, if I were to stack up against somebody who would be considered a little bit of an athlete, I could probably keep up a little bit. Maybe not the whole time, but I think I could keep up for a while. I do like the term the tortoise and the hare. I think of myself as more of the tortoise than the hare. I can go very long. I just can't get there fast. So there's something to that, I guess. But kind of the goals moving forward for myself, I would like to drop anywhere from, another 15 to 20 pounds again, get back down to, 215, 210, while trying to keep my muscle. Obviously, that's, easier said than done because, you really have to be in tune with your nutrition. I struggle with that. I also like to eat burgers and pizza sometimes. So, if I didn't work out, I'd be 500 pounds currently. Work on getting my speed back up to that 16 to 18 miles per hour, I think would be good. Right now, running long distances, that 6 mile run did put a lot of strain on my knees because I am a little bit heavier than I think I would like to be to be running that long. So, really dropping that weight's going to be a big deal. Hit probably 10-minute miles, I think is good for my 3 mile pace. Like I said, I would like to do a 5K in under 30, but if I could even hit it at 30, even if that's at my current weight, I think that would be pretty solid. And, the end game would be to be a hybrid athlete, the guy who can deadlift, sprint, and, even run for hours, right? Not fast, but you could be moving for hours, is kind of where I would like to see myself. So, I just wanted to make this quick video, kind of out myself a little bit on where I am. I've been doing this program now for 5 weeks. To be honest with you, I've kind of slacked in the running part. I have been on the rower, so when I'm supposed to be out sprinting, I have been doing sprint intervals on the rower, which, they don't really translate to time on feet, because, you put all that weight on your knees and in your feet, you feel it if you haven't been doing it. So, anyone who's kind of on a journey similar to mine, you're not new to fitness. You've always been an active person, but you're kind of looking at kind of changing it up a little bit. I'd really appreciate it if you just drop a comment, subscribe. Don't really care what happens with this channel. I have a whole career that I'm working towards right now. So this kind of YouTube thing is just a way for me to kind of track where I'm at. And if something good comes from it during all of that, that's awesome too. So yeah, if you could just please, like and subscribe, leave a comment, let me know where you're at with your own training. Anything that maybe you've done that's really improved your fitness. I'm always willing to learn. I'm no expert. So yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.